It's Podular. Welcome back, everybody. It is Thursday, July the 3rd. Happy 4th of July weekend. Welcome back for episode 36 of Podular. We are doing Vault Series number 2 today. We've got some exciting announcements to get into. Then we're going to get into that Vault Series, and then we are going to get into an Inspire Bring It Back. But first, let's get into it with my co-host Nate. How we doing, baby?
Scotty, anytime we're going back to the vault, it's a good day. So I'm excited, man. We get a little bit of a long weekend here, and what better way to kick things off for a long weekend is a trip back to some early 2000s Sector 9. But like you said, I mean, we get a pretty exciting announcement in the just world of STS9 with a new project coming up here. Speaking of old school STS9,
Yes.
right? David Murphy, he he's back, right? He's been playing some live music, which has been cool to see a little bit more. You know, he's gone through a handful of midlife crises, whether it's appearing on HGTV, whether it's racing motorcycles, whether it's starting new different electro jam tronica duos or anything like that. But man, it seems like he's returning to the world of STS9 here, Scotty. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's wild, right? Like 13 years goes by like that. And you look up and the climate has cooled, and it feels like we are to a place where clearly these two projects feel like they can exist in the same world without any seemingly without any bitterness or whatever happened in the past. I mean, 13 years is a long time, and
Let me stop you there. You said I
yeah,
like that you're saying 13 years because you're bringing that back to 2012, right?
right.
And that
Did I
that
am I my bad. You're right.
you
You're
no,
right.
you are, but I like that because 2012 is really where the Murph hate starts,
Sure.
right? Um, you know, obviously through 2011, through his return from cancer, everyone was pumped on Murph, pumped to get him back and everything like that. But like, as we saw that things necessarily didn't change as far as like him maybe taking music a little bit more seriously and maybe taking care of himself a little bit more, and then the product of STS9 on the live stage not getting any better, that's where the music world or the STS9 fan base starts to grow
Sure.
super,
Or whatever
frustrated
was
with him.
going on.
Yeah,
We don't
right.
actually know anything about that
Mm-mm.
era. There haven't been any tell-alls. None of them get down like that. And so, I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, all we knew is what we thought we knew.
Right.
And I think ultimately the thing that we could all agree upon is that that free spirit of exploration seemed to be a lot more caged during that era. And we've talked about the quality of the actual set list writing during that time. Maybe was better than any other time, but it didn't really translate to super locked in explorative STS9, which I know we've both said that we were big fans of. And it became clear that there were problems, whatever there were, and they closed out with a great 5-night run at the Tabernacle, and then went their separate ways. And then Murph's been trying on different things for size ever since. And are they midlife crises? Are they him just fucking around because he's ever known as being a member of a band? Whatever they ended up being, like you said, we end up finding ourselves seeing Murph pop up here, pop up there in the last 6 months. And
Mhm.
you wonder what was, was this going to be permanent? Are we going to start seeing him in super jams and all and that kind of thing? And I think what we got is better than anyone could have ever fucking,
I yeah,
you know?
I can't believe what I've seen, right? And
No.
but like him playing music a little bit more recently, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
He sees him inspired. So I'll read the announcement to fully
Yes.
get into it. For anyone that doesn't know, if you're living under a rock for this week, and if you're an STS9 fan, um, a new project called For My Peeps has been announced on David Murphy's Instagram, which is now at DM For My Peeps. So, what this announcement entails is for the past few years, sorry, let me restart that. Greetings, friends. For the past few years, I've deeply missed playing music. My time with STS9 shaped me. It came from a lifelong passion of playing music with friends, and that passion hasn't ever faded. It's only evolved. That's why I've decided to form a new group and bring those classic Sector 9 songs to life. Songs that are the core to who I am. Music and art aren't owned, they're shared. Artists create to express love, joy, sadness, hope, and to help people feel and think. It's with excitement and gratitude that I'm announcing the debut of David Murphy For My Peeps live at Terminal West in Atlanta, Georgia on September 11th. I've got amazing musicians joining me, true talents I'm honored to call collaborators. It's been years since STS9, and in that time, life has been humbling, beautiful, and full of new lessons. But my love for music has only deepened. I'm ready to share that with the humility of someone who remembers the 19-year-old kid who just wanted to travel the world, play music, and bring the funk to the peeps. So let's do this, fam. It's just such in his
Yeah.
voice, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, it's so him, that message. I love um, that last sentence. The 19-year-old kid who just wanted to travel the world, play music, and bring the funk to the peeps.
Right. I
It's all he
mean,
ever wanted to do, right?
how how can you not be open to this? I and I understand anyone who their first reaction was, for whatever reason, uh-oh, but
Hmm.
I don't. uh, what do we know? We know that Murph has been seen at every STS9 show that's happened in Atlanta since like 2018, right? Clearly, this relationship, whatever it ended with in 2013, has slowly been being healed over
Yeah,
time. And so I don't know, without knowing everything, I think it's safe to say that this wouldn't have happened at this time if there wasn't some conversation being had between those two parties.
yeah.
And
Which again,
and
I don't want to assume that there is, but if I
yeah,
had to guess if there was or wasn't, I would
y-
choose that there was some kind of conversation.
sure. And the little that we know, what was said about him at or not, yeah, Camp Elsewhere was all positive. It seemed like it was a lot of water under the bridge, and so I think it's really cool, man. I mean, if you weren't born when Murph left the band, you are a 13-year-old kid now. Like that's a whole life, and to see him return in such a humble, gracious, uh, just happy to be here type vibe. It's so cool. And it's something I don't know if I've ever seen since I was an STS9 fan. Like this excitement and this hunger to play this music. I don't know. It's just so beautifully written on that post.
Yeah.
A couple more thoughts.
Yeah.
Bring in,
Can, can,
bring,
can, can I
go
tell
ahead.
you really why I'm excited about this?
Yeah,
Obviously, it's, a musician that when me and you got into this band, he was the front man of. We have a love for Murph, right? We want to see
right.
him doing things that make him happy, right? But dude, the thing that makes me really excited is
Yeah,
Rohan on
yes.
drums
And
and
Kevin,
Kevin Donahue on guitar.
man.
So obviously Rohan, huge STS9 fan. He's been on the program. Does some awesome work as a solo producers, Rohan solo, but Hive Mind as well, formerly Space Cadet. If you've seen this guy drum, he can rip drum and bass, right?
Yeah,
And this is what this project is going to be centered around, right? Old middle 2000s, old school STS9, which you know fucking live drum and bass is the cornerstone of that. And then Kevin, who we haven't had on the program yet, but we certainly will at some
yeah.
point.
High on
Who's
the
grown,
list. Maybe
yeah,
for this.
grown to be a great friend of mine, actually personally, and I
Hmm.
didn't know before that how big of an STS9 fan he is. He's
Yeah,
the guitarist of Sun Squabby. If you've seen Sun Squabby live, you've walked away with one thing from that show is like, man, that guitar player rips,
yeah.
right? Um,
And and that's the thing that got me too, because I've had conversations. Obviously, we've had conversations with Rohan on this podcast, but you and I have been with Kevin specifically over the Eastern run, where we've had conversations deep into the night,
mhm.
vulnerable conversations about how much this music means to each one of us, and him in particular, and the influence that that Murph has had, but also Hunter has had, and obviously the whole band has had on him. And yeah, at the beginning, I got a little misty eyed. I didn't expect that to happen, but just seeing those two guys, such good guys, just
Yeah.
truly some of the best
Uh,
people you will meet.
and
Um,
some of the biggest fans of this band you will
right,
meet, like
right.
where it
Like,
goes so deep for them.
yeah,
Like,
and that's another reason why it feels so good for me, Nate. Like,
mhm.
I don't think Kevin and Rohan are getting involved in a situation where there's a lot of weird shit still happening.
No,
Like that them being a part of it, it just feels so family grown. It's so organic. And for those of us that aren't as close to the situation and knowing a couple of the members of this band, let me tell y'all, this is worth supporting. Like
yeah,
go flock to this, because they are both. Rohan is going to do an amazing Zach impression, and fucking Kevin respects Hunter way too much to slouch on this. I mean, this is going
yeah,
to be both these guys at the absolute tip top of their game.
yeah. Talked to Kevin a little bit this week, and he's like, I'm beyond humbled when we practicing these tunes to a T, and putting everything I have into this.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know much about Scott. Scott Hene, not
I
sure.
don't either.
Yeah, if I know that, but hearing from Rohan a little bit, I know he plays currently with Mahali, and he was a former stage tech for Twiddle. So I mean, if you want anything out of someone doing a Phipps impression, it's probably someone who's a gearhead, right?
Hmm.
But he let me know he's a huge fan of Phipps, and they're gonna serve these songs proper with the utmost respect and love possible.
And
And
Rohan said there's another member that's not on this lineup. I'm trying to find it because he listed one. Okay, so let's see. Um, Phil Ordonez
okay, I
is
hadn't seen
based.
his name on anything yet.
It's not officially on anything, but Rohan commented on the lounge, and he said Murph bass and synth, Kevin Donahue guitar, Scott Haney keys, Phil Ordonez percussion, and then Rohan on drums.
Okay, so I'll have a Jeffrey. They'll have a full five piece, right?
Full five piece.
That's just pretty cool.
Yeah. Rohan told me that the list is long. He said he can't say too much right now, but the list of songs that they've been given to learn is he's doing it justice. And he said there may be a Murph original or two in there, but obviously, basically what the announcement said, it's a gigantic bag full of pre-08 STS9.
Sounds juicy to me. And yeah, I'm super excited. Obviously, you get the show in Atlanta. I'm sure if this goes well, then you could see them maybe thinking about hitting STS9 centric cities like Denver, like Chicago. Why not? So I hope it does well. I'm sure it will. It looks like it's being received well in the comments, in the lounge, and everything. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Like, hey, if this had happened, maybe even 2 years before this, right?
Right.
Maybe there's not the same kind of reaction, right?
Sure.
Like you
Sure.
said, I think the timing of it is important, and knowing that it's all coming from a place of love from him, and the band has expressed in public forums that it's all love with between them and Murph too. It seems right. We'll see. Who knows? Things could get chippy here, and then that gives us a lot to talk about. But
Yeah.
but either way, it's exciting, and I think me and you are on the same page about it. So. But speaking of pre-08 STS9 here, Scotty, we are opening up the vault again for the second time here on Pod Podular. Talk to us a little bit about where we're going here today.
Oh, Nathan, we are going back to that ever faithful venue to the STS9 community in a little town of red and black called Athens, Georgia. We are going to the Georgia Theater in the year 2000. If that doesn't sound familiar to you guys, it didn't sound familiar to us either. This show is, by the way, after that last one, a couple of y'all were like, I got that show, popped in our DM. Like, that's not a lost show. It was lost to us. And these shows, if you've got them, pass them to us because
Yeah, I still can't find the recording that we had from
right.
last time.
I can't either. So,
Yeah.
the more the merrier. We're not sitting here acting like the gatekeepers to this mine, dude. Pass it along. If you've got submissions for this, we'll do it. Like we just want to hear this deep cut old shit that it feels like almost nobody's heard. That
Mhm.
being said, I do believe this one's a deeper cut than the last one that we had. Because it's unlike the last one that was at least on soundtribe.us. This one is not. It is
Yeah.
not on archives. It is April 7th, 2000, at the Georgia Theater. And there's some good stuff in here. There's some hilarious stuff in here. This is we are going to get into, I think, what is going to go on to be our funniest clip that we can ever play on this podcast. This show is just a treasure trove of fun. So excited to get into it, partner. Ready when you are.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna start things off with a clip of the opening song here, so we'll get right into it.
Phipps.
All right, Scotty, can I tell you something about this Surreality?
Tell me something about it.
This Surreality to open the show was in the pre-Eve era.
Oh, it didn't exist yet?
According to soundtribe.us, the premiere of Eve was in at High Sierra Music Festival, Saturday, July 1st, 2000. That
Wow.
provides that even deeper of a layer to this opener, right?
Yeah.
Um, man. Yeah, when they don't have Eve to get to, Seriality can stretch out like that one
What
does.
and like the first the I love the way that that clip is clipped because it starts off and they it's like two jams moving parallel like this to each other, and
Yes.
you can be gliding with your eyes closed, kind of peaceful blissed out vibes, or you can be spazzing the fuck out if you're listening to Zach. And then these jams, they kind of come, and this isn't going to make sense to anybody that's listening, but they kind of come and do this for the
Yeah,
second
they
half of that
intersect.
clip.
Yep. Yeah.
And you really get some of the earliest taste of what made people decide to be crazy people about this band early,
Yeah.
because these sounds it just aren't happening anywhere else.
You can't even hear them all at once, you
Right.
know? Like it's but you do, but you also do.
Hmm.
But subconsciously, like that's where it's like I caught myself halfway through that clip because I was spazzing to Zach as I typically do. You know that
Yeah.
the heartbeat of my soul runs to whatever Zach Bellmer's BPM is at. And I got to a certain point where like I was like, wait, when did they slow this down?
Right.
It does slow down, and then it becomes very Phipps centric,
Right.
evil Phipps
Hmm.
here. And I'm hearing a little bit of frequencies, like a little
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just the sonic sauce, dude. Some really cool percussion breaks where Jeffrey's getting at it. Um, what an opener for the show. So, yeah, it's an 11 plus minute Surreality
You don't
with a
see
butt.
Surreality openers too much ever.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single one off the top of my head outside of this show.
Yeah. Speaking of standalone Surrealities, I love a standalone Ebe coming up pretty soon here. I think we're due
Yeah,
for that.
sure.
But this has a really nice buttery segue into a great Kamuy,
Right. Yep.
as they all are. Um, Unreal Gobnugget after this, where the band does
Very
stop
a
and pick
very
it up.
like a formless Gobnugget.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite parts about this exercise, and just going back to the earlier stuff in general. There, some of those early versions of like Gobnugget, F word is another one that's like this, where it has no form at all to what you know about it now. You hear little notes here and there of where it is, but it's fun because it's like in its like it's like in the womb of what it actually
Infancy
ends up
stage.
becoming.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
It's in the oven for sure.
Yeah, it's
Still,
developing its personality.
that second half of Surreality you could call the Eve oven for sure.
Yeah, the great beyond of Eve. Sorry, the great before of Eve.
Yes. Um, and then this goes into a jam. It's labeled as KPT.
What did
I
you
don't know.
think? I labeled these, by the way, so any of them are wrong, it's my fault.
Okay, got it. I think that on a set list this might read improv, like not another dub jam, right? Which is
Right.
labeled on set list. I think this might be into improv. Nice little 5 minute like dub improv section. Um,
Hmm.
which is a really cool alternative to what we've heard of, the well, not typical anymore, but what we would say is like the proper pretty Gobnugget ending,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, really strong 4 song segment to start the show, which brings us to our next clip here.
Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Summer Angels.
And some are aliens.
maybe that's the dot 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 from before. Like,
Ah, you're
ladies and
right.
gentlemen, and Summer Angels. I don't know, man. Uh, man, they got the fuck around business in the middle of
Dude,
that clip.
man, that's the soundtrack that my guardian angel listens to every day, dude. That's those are different angels up there.
She's looking out. They're
Yeah,
looking out.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um, it just I feel like I'm gonna say this a lot on these Vault episodes, but it's wild to me that Phipps had the technology to make some of the noises that he was making at this time.
yeah, I think of like how some of the drums are mic'd too. Like
Yeah.
some of the tom drums, I think they are like where it's just they have that echo and that reverb
Hmm.
to them. Where like yeah, again like this is pre computers being on stage to my knowledge. You know, on a Friday night in Athens on April 7th, where who knows how many amps are on stage, how many reverb pedals are on stage and that stuff. But like, yeah, it's extremely impressive with what they do now, right?
Right.
And it's never been it's never not been impressive what they do with technology. But um, from these kind of shows where we lack a whole lot of video footage, we lack a whole lot of photos, right? It like it kind of paints like a visual picture, but a mysterious one of like, what the fuck is going on stage right now?
Right. Right. What buttons are being pushed? What tech are they using? And how much of this was unique to them at the time? Phipps is a Georgia Tech guy. He's an engineer. How much of this sound is just him fucking around with building different synths and whatever that looks like. Now we're getting into realms of stuff that neither one of us are talented enough to actually discuss.
Yeah.
But
And
what are all those things that we don't understand that were happening back then? I guess is what we're both saying.
yeah, and here's the man 25 years later who's currently at some kind of synth like
Yeah,
camp in Sweden right now, figuring out
yeah.
how to figure out even more, right? So
It never stop growing, man.
just speak to this never-ending envelope that is continued to be pushed
Mhm.
by this group of musicians. We're gonna go to our next track for the next clip here. So don't gotta go far down the set list on this one. Scotty, does this Inspire even get to part two?
I don't think so. This at any given point, if you didn't know it was being played, I don't blame you. I don't know if they got into like anything recognizable out of Inspire for that entire 7.5 minute clip. One thing that I wrote down as I was listening to that I hadn't thought of the first time is I think, and it's in their name, Sound Tribe Sector 9. But something that this band does better than anyone else is almost paints these sonic portraits for you during these jams. And something that I don't know if we've talked about at all on these 36 episodes is how important the placement of the mix is and what I'm talking about. I said it towards the end of that Hunter's in the Woods right there. That was I meant that in the sense of like where he feels like he is and where I'm picturing it. Like he sounds like he's behind everybody else, just kind of throwing those textural tones that really make all the difference in the world. It's kind of like what Maureen was talking about, how she wanted to use her voice as kind of a fill-in instrument with the band. That's kind of what Hunter does here. I'm rambling now because I'm trying to get to what I mean, but I think
No, dude, he's in the Forbidden Forest. He's in the Dark Forest for sure.
Yeah.
He's looking for whatever's been hunting down those unicorns with Hagrid and Fang. It's reverberating off these spaced out huge tree trunks and shit like that, and it's misty and it's foggy.
Yes. You do understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can hear how humid it is on that track for sure. It's steamy as fuck.
It's Athens, Georgia in April.
Bro, get your chakras aligned with that one, man. That is like close your eyes and forget what day it is for sure.
Honestly, as we were making these clips, it didn't really occur to me that we were doing three songs in a row, but that's just the way this shit shakes out sometimes.
What an insane segment for sure.
No,
so yeah, this
ahead,
Inspire clocks in at over 23 minutes, and like I mentioned, I don't think they get into the part two. You can hear a little bit of it at the clip, like the clip, which like makes up the part one, which really isn't a part of the song anymore.
Right.
Now all of Inspire is kind of based around that part two, and that's not the forefront of this jam at all. It's just,
and I don't think you get to it. It's just that youthful innocence at play here, where something starts working and it's clear that they're not handcuffed to what happens next at this point. They're just very young children. Is Jeffrey a member of the band at this point?
Yeah, you can hear him for sure. Yeah.
So they're just 5 kids seeing where this shit takes them, and Inspire, no matter where you look in those early years, seems to be kind of one of their favorite early vehicles to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, we don't go too much farther for our next clip, which is quite the audio clip.
I have so much to say about this one. I'm not. Yeah, let's just play it. Just play it.
All right.
gotta stop giving it away. We gotta seize the moments. We gotta feel what we feel right now, and we gotta utilize it to our advantage. We gotta take it out on the street. We gotta share it. We gotta tell people all about it. We gotta tell people where to go get it. It's right in the mirror. That's where you go get it. In the mirror. And from the mirror, I am honored to be here. Now this is the good life. Thanks for having me here tonight. I want to be clear as possible for the dragon year. It's time we become profiteers out of our experience from yesteryear. We are all pioneers looking through the atmosphere into the stratosphere to engineer new ecospheres for us to live on.
Bars.
It's time we interfere in everything we overhear because we are the overseers of this planet, and it is nothing I say to take for granted.
Don't interfere with everything you overhear. Some things are none of your business.
Okay, but let's get real.
Now we're getting real.
We can't change a thing till we fix ourselves. You can put all those 101 ways to save the planet books back on the shelf and start to ask, what do I want? What do I
Fuck
feel?
them books.
That's the real deal. Say what you think instead of seeing a shrink. It's the ink writing deep within your mind that always tells you the time. So well
Fuck
the
therapy.
answers in our head that you think you may speak them would be unkind, but to not would be a blind mind. To realign humankind.
Checks out. It rhymes.
You must say well-defined rhymes. It makes them think every time.
I'm thinking.
There are paradigms set up every day just to see if you'll pay to play. It's the time to take ourselves all the way. There won't be dismay if we display who we are every day, whether we are smoking,
Oh yeah.
your way, out of a chalice, or whatever your tool is. Or working in the cabriolet, or mushroom chocolates may be your mainstay. Tell the world the truth, create boundaries instead of disease. Seize every chance you get to tell the truth. The more the truth hurts, the more they need to hear it. If we all lived up to who we were, we would have no secrets. We would just all be a full family of light. That would be out of sight. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Was she taking that as her out? She's like, all right, I just said out of sight. This is my opportunity to say thank you and good night.
Oh.
All right, so water song, a little bit spoken word here.
Yeah.
I dig it, dude.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you, Nate?
some of what she's saying is pretty outlandish for sure. Yeah, basically, fuck books, fuck therapy, right?
Just write it down. Just write it down.
Write your own book, I guess.
Interfere in everything that you overhear. Be that person at a restaurant. You hear a couple arguing. You got an opinion on that argument, dude? Let them know. Interfere.
That's what I took away from this.
Especially if you're on mushroom chocolates.
It's exactly.
Or smoking out of a chalice. Whatever the fuck that means.
So I'm not gonna give away who I talked to about this, for the respect of privacy and the sources that we quietly have. Nobody knows who this woman is. We have talked to multiple sources as close as you could possibly be to a member of this band.
Can't track it down.
Nobody knows who this woman is.
Maybe she just wandered on stage. It's kind of what it sounds like.
Dude, I don't. Maybe.
And then 15 years later, she ended up trust falling Zach. This kind of sounds like it would be Trust Fall Girl.
They're just too young to do anything about it. They're just like,
didn't pay for
whatever.
Security. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, let her go, whatever. Dude, I can't get over the fact that no one knows who this girl is. Like,
dude, are you surprised they don't know what they played 3 years ago at a show?
Yeah, bro, but the way that they are playing around her, it almost sounds like they're shooing her off stage. like there's one part I almost wanted you to stop it and rewind it when she says something and Phipps just falls down the piano keys. There's one part where Hunter's like,
yeah,
like, go away. Maybe this is just me reading into it because of my interpretation of what happened on this stage. But this is some of the wildest STS9 you're ever gonna hear.
Yeah, this is one of a kind for sure. But she kind of sounds like the Totem samples right off the bat. Yeah, you. Yeah,
exactly, dude. I'm not done trying to get to the bottom of this. I have to know who this woman is. If you're listening to this, especially if you are that woman, please let us know. We want you on. We want you to be a guest. We want to talk about that whole monologue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We should transcribe it too, for sure. So that brings us out of that 3-song segment, which is absolutely insane. And then we got 4 more songs to go here, right, Scott? So after that, they get into an absolute ripping 19-minute and 39-second Moonsocket. Maybe to reset the energy on stage a little bit there, remind everybody this is a dance party. And then after that, we get into another standout Orbital. I have a feeling we'd have clipped either one of these, but we've been playing enough Moonsockets and enough Orbitals on the show. 15 plus minute, very tight Orbital actually for this time period. But a really good one that is a little bit less of the exploratory and gets lost a little bit, where you can kind of hear them like finding the form of that song, right?
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Orbital has caution tape around it after the first Vault series for a while. You could fit 2 of these Orbitals inside of that first Orbital that we played, so we can't touch that one yet. Monkey music, next one, amazing monkey music. We played it last week. So that kind of made this next one an easy choice, and especially when you hear it, just some cool early construction, if you will, going on here in this last clip that we got for you.
Startup City right here.
Come on.
That is a year 2000 STS-9 spaceship landing off a monster sandwich to finish this show of 12 into What Is Love, back into 12 to finish off. I've never heard those two songs be played around with each other before we listened to this show.
And yeah, I went back because I guess I misspoke a little bit, but not really. Just because this everything's new in this era. Everything's being played with every show. They had actually played "What Is Love" outside of this night 6 times before this was done as like standalone tracks. It was an opener of a show once. But this I you know you talk about mashup city. It doesn't really ever enter what I would say is a sandwich per se. There's always elements of 12 happening in this for however long this is, and it's 21 minutes.
In total, it's 24 minutes.
24 minutes.
I think What Is Love pops in around the 10-minute mark, and we picked it up around the 15-minute mark. And it kind of fades out a few minutes into that and becomes a full-on insane percussion experiment 12 jam before taking full form back into 12 again, where they play around a lot with tempos there and then hit you with that spaceship landing ending.
Yeah, but you're never living fully in What Is Love land.
No.
During those 24 minutes, and that's what makes this such a special moment early in their career, is that even though that D-Light cover has already they've already played with it, there's still so much to explore within it, and you get this really clear picture of what that looks like on this 12, and kind of maybe how they find it into the 12 and never fully sell out to the What Is Love. I don't know, just a really, really special, almost 25-minute long early Sector 9.
I will take any opportunity to play an OG 12 on this program. And man, if it's been 2 years, 2 months, and 10 days since we've heard STS-9 last play 12, last time at the Concourse Project in Austin, Texas, in 2023. I mean, What Is Love 12 would sound like now? Wow. I don't think my brain could handle it. Like, in terms of this, just like massive buildups, huge soundscapes. Before we went back and listened to the show, that's not an idea that I ever thought of, which would be really cool to see it brought back in that way. But play 12. It's been a little bit too long. Let's get one on the books here. So, but yeah, that rounds out the April 7th, 2000 performance from Athens, Georgia at the Georgia Theater, which many more epic memories have gone down prior to and after this for STS-9. So really cool piece of history here. But Scotty, finishing this up with a Inspire Bring It Back. What do you got?
Yeah, we kind of no pun intended seg perfectly into this off of that last one. We've talked about it a couple of times tonight. Segs that have happened in the past, but there are people that weren't born when these happened that are old enough to drink now when and they haven't happened since. I'm inspired to bring back some of these old segs and just the spirit of trying out 2 old dogs with 1 new trick, and not in the way that we talk about all the time, where taking a Dream State Patrol and mixing it with something from interplanetary escape vehicles. I would like to see them revisit how these old songs work together a little bit more often. That's Surreality Kamuy is something I would never think of now that we're swimming in probably 300 STS-9 song possibilities. But it's something that's right there that makes perfect sense when you hear it together. So I don't know. While we're playing with these new old combos, why don't we fuck around with some old combos that maybe haven't happened in 20 years or maybe have never happened? I think that'd be really cool, just in the spirit of kind of dusting everything off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see some of that in the Artifact Human Dream type
Right.
stuff, where like, hey, they fuck around with a couple old songs all back to back, and then
Mhm.
give you some segs with the new stuff. Give me some segs with the new stuff too. Like, let's hear what Peachtree into Portal to a Starry Path sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So I love that idea, and it just gets me thinking too. Like, not to go back with what we opened with talking with, but like me, you, and Matt Voss often talk about this when we're talking about old shows, where it's like, man, I wish I was on STS9 tour in fucking 2000 instead of, collecting fucking Pokemon cards.
Right.
Like this new Murph project is going to give fans like us who never got the opportunity to experience
Yeah.
this type of sound live to see that, right?
Yeah.
So it just brings me back to that point and had that final. Scotty, I love that take. But to fully finish this up here, we had a handful of announcements coming our way here for upcoming
Yes.
shows. First things first, band's going back to Charleston, right? Charleston,
Mhm.
South Carolina. Those were bitchin' shows the last time they played. They played awesome shows in that city throughout the band's history. Seems like these are kind of in place of around when Camp Belser was going to happen. So October 3rd and October 4th, back at the Refinery. Heard a lot of great things about that venue. Um, so seeing the band go back there is very exciting. And then we've got a Portal to Dylan announcement, right? Scotty, what do we
Yes.
got going on Colorado weekend?
We are going back to the Boulder Theater, Nate. I've never been to the Boulder Theater to see STS9, so I'm going for the first time. But that is August the 29th at the Boulder Theater in Boulder, Colorado. It is going to be a lottery system. All ticket holders for the shows at Dylan will receive a unique code via email to purchase the tickets for the Boulder show. I would assume that the remainder of those that are not claimed through that pre-sale will go on sale to the public at some point, but that's where the information from them stops. So if you do not have your Dylan tickets, get them right now. Maybe you can slide in on that lottery before the email goes out. So
Yep. 10 years later, back at the Boulder Theater. I can't tell you how fucking awesome that show was and how much fun I had at the pre-Red Rock show in 2015. So really cool to see that they're um, treating that proper as far as that Dylan run, getting a proper pre-show at the Boulder Theater. Those shows are going to be absolutely bananas. So, but that's all we've got for episode 36. Thanks for going into the vault for us. Going to the vault with us rather. And hope everybody enjoyed. Hope everybody has a fantastic and safe 4th of July weekend. Make sure that this time next week we still got all our fingers. No blowing
don't
off our
say that.
fingers. Yeah. Don't pull a Jason Pierre Paul on us. But again, thanks for watching and listening. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, throw us a comment, throw us a review if you're feeling nice. But again, we'll put the recording of this show, Dropbox link into the description and make sure that's available for you guys. So much love.